Shabbat Shalom, Mishpacha. This is Rabbi Simon Alter from the East. I think we'll kick-start it a little earlier since my net seems to be kind of good this morning or this evening over here, because the Shabbat's almost ended over here, and I'm pretty sure yours is pretty good at your end as well. Can everybody hear me on that side? Great. So we'll kick-start it, and our Parsha Torah portion today is Parsha's Tavo, and it'll be good to have a quick browse through there and just to see what that says. I'll give you a quick reading of it, or we can touch on that in Deuteronomy Chapter 26, verse 1. And it shall be, when you come into the land which Yahweh your power is about to give you for an inheritance, and possess it and dwell in it, that you shall take of the first of all the fruit of the earth which you shall bring of your land, that Yahweh your power is about to give you, and shall put it in a basket, and shall go to the place which Yahweh your power shall choose to place his name there. And you shall go to the Kohen that shall be in those days, and say to them, I profess this day to Yahweh your power, that I have come into the country which Yahweh swore to our fathers to give us. And the Kohen shall take the basket out of your hand, and set it down before the altar of Yahweh your power, and you shall speak and say before Yahweh your power, an Aramaean was ready to destroy my father, and he went down into Mitzrayim, and sojourned there with a few, and became there a nation great, mighty, and numerous in numbers. Okay, so that's the gist of it. And it goes on to say, in the Mitzrayim, the Egyptians evil entreated us and afflicted us and laid us upon us hard bondage. And when we cried to Yahweh Elohim of our forefathers, our fathers, Yahweh heard our voice and looked on our affliction and our labor and our oppression. And Yahweh brought us forth out of Mitzrayim with a mighty hand, with an outstretched arm, and with great terribleness, and with signs and with wonders. And he has brought us into this place, and has given us this land, even the land that flows with milk and honey. And now, behold, I have brought the Bikurim, first fruit of the land which you, O Yahweh, has given me. And you shall set it before Yahweh your power, and pay homage before Yahweh your power. And you shall rejoice in every good thing which Yahweh your power has given to you, and to your base, to your house, you and the Levite, and the foreigner that is among you. Okay, so a lot of the people simply apply this to the land of Israel, and the first application on this particular passage is to the land of Israel, but the latter application is to where you're living now, wherever you are, whether that is the US, whether that is France, or whether that is England, that is Germany, that is some other country of the world. That is where the application applies. Now the problem is this, that of course we don't have a temple there, and we don't need to. So what is the picture of the temple? Well, Christians will tell you that your body is the temple. I reject that notion altogether. Your body is not the temple. It can never be the temple. And that's just the Christians who want to maybe play allegoric or some other language. They will make that out to you, and we definitely in the Torah side do not agree with that. Now, the presence of Yahweh, the presence of the God of Israel, is always going to be the priest, the priesthood. In other words, the priest that is present, because it says in there, in those days you shall come to the priest. Now, of course, God He never promised that you will have a temple standing all the time, but He did promise you a priest. See, when He says that in those days you will come to the priest, means that for many years on this earth, we know since probably beyond 691 CE, we basically, I would say even from 70 CE, 66 CE, round about when the temple was destroyed, from 66 CE, we did not have a temple. We didn't even have a land, because the land was destroyed by the Romans. Destroyed the land. We know that there was a battle at 135 CE with Simon Bar Kokheba, and they were all defeated, destroyed, and many people were killed in Israel. And after that, Israel just went into a downward spiral where there was no land. People disappeared altogether, went into different countries, and it was just a desolate land. And maybe the very poor survived, and maybe the very poor stayed because they had no money to go anywhere. So Israel wasn't even a land after that. And whoever visited Israel, Mark Twain once visited Israel and said that it was a land that was just hills and shrubs, and there was nothing there. It was totally dead land. And until 1948, until it was reestablished. So point being that while there was a land with nothing there, maybe the odd few families here and there, but really the priesthood had altogether disappeared as well. But they didn't disappear, they were in different countries, maybe in Syria, maybe in the Middle East, maybe other countries. So they were all over the place. And so the people still had access to the priest. So the priest was the focus. He was the representative of Yahweh, the God of Israel. So, you might be in America today and might be thinking, well, who am I going to take my first fruit to? And what does the first fruit mean? Because here it's important to understand that your first fruits is going to be whatever business you're in. You don't have to be a farmer growing figs and growing grapes and apples and strawberries in America. You don't have to be a farmer to bring your first fruit. You have to be just yourself. And whatever career that you follow, whether that career is driving a cab, whether that is working a job in an office, or whether that is working in a restaurant or something else, whatever career you follow, whether you're a nurse, a doctor, engineer, that first fruits would be that when you will bring your salaries, your offerings, your tithes, your zadaqah, you bring those things to the priest. So that means you still have to find a priest. You still have to find a Kohen in the gate. Who is the Kohen in the gate? Who is your Kohen? This is something that I was discussing over here. Some people that, Christians over here technically are divorced people. They don't realize that. Christianity itself is a divorced religion. Why I say that? Because that's what God said. God said in the book of Genesis that Adam was divorced. Adam was driven out. The word there in the Hebrew is the word for divorce, the grash. He was divorced and he was thrown out with his wives. And then after that, Adam just went from one nation. He was from one place to another. He was technically, his children became wanderers. He became a wanderer. His children became wanderers. And so when Israel was brought together, a covenant was made, marriage was established, and then God divorced one wife, the northern wife, the allegorical northern wife of Israel, the 10 tribes, and the other wife stayed, wasn't divorced. So today our status is what? If you're part of the 10 tribes, you have a divorce status. Unless you have rejoined the God of Israel, you have reconfirmed your oath, your covenants, your oath to be part of the Abrahamic covenant, then you can say you've joined back. But if you haven't done that, if you're still a wanderer, if you're still out there and you haven't formally made any oaths, then you're still a divorced person. And a divorced person in society has no respect. And that's how it's played over here in the East. Divorced women in the East are not seen in a very high light. And in the West, maybe people don't seem to care because they don't even place a value on marriage. So people don't really care about these things in the West so much, but in the East they do. Family structures are very strong in the East, and so therefore divorced women, they may not be, they're not seen as sinful women, but they're kind of seen with a bad mark, with a bad label. And so just applying the label to the people of Israel who are divorced, technically the 10 tribes, it's been 1800 years. They haven't gone back to the land. So what kind of labels do they carry in the nations? They're divorced people. Unless they go back to God, they reconfirm their covenant, they come to the Kohen, they say, we want to go back to God, we want to reconfirm our covenants, we want to tie ourselves back to God again. Then they can say, yeah, we are no longer divorced, we are married again. Because in the Torah, when the marriage happens and the husband removes the wife for some reason, and then that is counted as a divorce or a putting away. Now the putting away, the only way that wife can come back is if she doesn't marry another husband. If she goes and marries another husband, typically that means she starts worshipping another god, and she's kind of now bound herself to some other husband. God is seen as a husband. In this case, she can only come back to the first husband if she hasn't tied herself to a second husband. And so once she ties herself to the second husband, the deed is finished. She can never come back. So that's how God places it in the Torah, that a divorced wife can come back as long as she hasn't beholden herself to another man or bound herself with another man. So that's seen as a marriage with, the other husband is seen as a god. So the point is, where are you as a person, as a child of Israel? Where are you? Only you can answer that. I can't answer that for you. So more or less, if you tied yourself to another husband, I see people who tied themselves to Jesus and say Jesus is God, they tied themselves to another husband. So now Jesus has become their husband. Well, if Jesus is a husband, then you have a problem, because the two can't meet. Jesus is a man and was born a man, was born through a woman. He wasn't, God doesn't come down in human form and hey, I'm over here, come and meet me. God doesn't say that. So it's the problem you're going to face. If you feel, if you believe, as Messianic Christians and all that, they believe that Jesus is Lord and God and Savior, then you tied yourself to another husband. So you need to look at that, and you'll be counted as because what happens to the divorced woman? The divorced woman goes and ties herself to another husband, and then she stays with that husband, and maybe that's where she dies, maybe that's who she stays with, and she can never come back. In this case, because it's all allegorical in this instance, in Ezekiel, God calls Israel his two wives, the northern wife and the southern wife. So, if you're part of the northern or the southern wife wasn't divorced, still there. If you're part of the northern wife, you're allowed to come back as long as you don't tie yourself to the second husband. And there is a caveat. The caveat is this, that if you did tie yourself to a second husband, meaning if you tied yourself to Jesus, then more than likely, or some other god, then more than likely you did a Gentile contract. That's the caveat. That's the catch. Because a Gentile contract doesn't hold value. So you could never have tied a Torah contract with that husband, because it wasn't permitted. So therefore that's the caveat. That's what allows you to come back. Even if you took another husband, you could still technically come back, because you never did a ketubah, a Jewish or a Hebrew contract. So therefore you still have a road back to God. And the first fruit here, as I said, all the blessings that God wants to bestow upon His people are tied to the first fruits. Now look, if you don't tithe, you don't give to the car, all you do is come over here, listen and go away, then where is the blessing in that? Why should God bless you? God has no covenant with you. God doesn't even know who you are. Yeah, you come into Paltalk, you spend 1 hour here, and you disappear. And so to God, you're just another body out there. You're technically not part of His covenant, because you did not swear, you did not uphold, you did not take over and said, you know what, I'm going to be part of your people, I'm going to be part of Abraham's family, I'm going to follow the laws that Abraham followed, and I want to do what Abraham did. And so therefore I will uphold everything that Abraham upheld, and I will be your child, your son, your daughter, just as Abraham was. So henceforth, a lot of the times you will find that is not the case. People don't do that. People just astray and disappear, and they come here and they spend 15 minutes and they go and they go hopping, bed hopping like frogs, from one to the next. They hop. They go from one church to another, then from another, then another, and their whole life is spent hopping, and they never find a home. So what is home? Home is where you have your husband, where you have the one that you serve. And so the blessings can only rise as a result of that. It's all a process and a procedure, but it's not, it's not out of place to say that. You're actually in place if you have sworn an oath, and you follow that oath, and you sworn that oath with the God of Israel. God is responsible for you. Rabbi Kefa is saying that my Christian sister made the exact statement, Jesus is my husband. She has not remarried since her first divorce, bound by the Christian dogma. Absolutely. This is what, I don't even know Rabbi Kefa's sister what statement she made, but clearly Rabbi Kefa knows that the sister made that statement, that Jesus is her husband. And you know that a lot of Christians make that statement all the time. They're always making that statement, Jesus is my husband. Well, if Jesus is your husband, then you're tied to a second God. Because they say, not just he's my husband, they say, he is God. He's my Savior. Well, glad you said that, because now you're a divorced woman, and you will remain a divorced woman, but you have one technicality, that your marriage with Jesus is only Gentile marriage. You can't break that and come back to your Torah marriage. Because the Torah does permit you to come back to your first husband, provided you are serious about it and you did not tie a Hebrew contract. There's no way you can tie a Hebrew contract with so-called Jesus. He's a Greek husband. Technically, he belongs to the church, and the church belongs to itself. This is all what do you call it? I call it a mumbo-jumbo syndrome. You have a mumbo-jumbo husband, you have a mumbo-jumbo faith, and you have a mumbo-jumbo life. So you're jumping from one house to the next. Call it whatever denomination you like. Pick a name: Baptist, Methodist, Pentecostal, Messianic, whoever you want to call yourself. That's basically where you are. So, question is, do you want to be with that one husband that's faithful, that promises you blessings, that promises you everything, promises you life? The major passages, many important passages in the Torah, especially in the book of Deuteronomy, the last book of the Torah, it sets before you life and death. And people might think, oh, well, everybody's going to die, but it's not talking about everybody's death. It's not talking about natural death. It's talking about your present life, your present circumstances, and what you tie yourself to. So for the Torah, death means that you attach yourself to a foreign husband. That is death. And Torah, attaching yourself to the God of Israel, the God of Abraham, is life. That's how Torah phrases life and death. I had a question this week that I was dealing with in one of the WhatsApp groups over here. And somebody posted, Christians are so ignorant. They are so very ignorant of our books. And he posted a question saying that God must have a book of life. Because, he made mention that in the book of Exodus, there is the mention of book of life with Moses, where Moses says, blot me out of your book. And he goes, then there is another statement in the Psalms, where also it mentions a book. And then in the book of Daniel, it also mentions a book, where, Daniel is told that there is this book, and if your name is not in it, you will be, you'll wake up ashamed. And basically, I tied that statement to a book in the book of Revelation. And I said, what is this book? Book of Revelation speaks about a book of life. And the Christian man over here said, well, the book of life, he basically said it's the same book, spoken about in Revelation 21:27. And he said it's the same book that is mentioned in, for instance, he pointed out Exodus chapters, what was it? Exodus chapter 32 and 32, and then he, took one of the Psalms, and he said, well, it's also spoken about in the book of Psalms that it says, that God has a book, and it's the same. He believed that it was, Psalm 69:28. Let them be blotted out of the book of the living. and not be written with the righteous. So he pointed that one out in Psalm 69:28, and then the other one he took out was from Daniel 12:4, Daniel chapter 12. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book. To the time of the end, many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. So he tried to tie those passages to the book of life, and said this is some kind of a book that God holds, in which he puts your name. If your name is Peter, he puts your name Peter in there, that you're righteous, you're going to be coming to heaven with me. And if your name is, I don't know, Dick Turpin, Dick Turpin, you're not coming to heaven because you're a bad man, you're going to go to hell. Things like that. That's the belief system. That is a belief system. And I just put out one little audio explaining all three references in the book of Daniel, in the book of Psalms, in the book of Exodus, point to one book. And I said that's not some fairy tale book in the skies where God is holding it in his little shelf. I said no, that book actually is the Torah. That is the book of life. If you didn't know, then correct yourself. The book of life is the Torah, and the book of death is the Torah. So when God says that I have put your name in the book, He's not putting down, Peter, you're going to go to heaven and I've written your name in the book of life. No, God takes a name in the book of life. That's called Bnai Israel, children of Israel. That is the name that's inscribed. So you're inscribed as Bnai Israel, not as Peter, James, John, all these other names, Janet, Linda. No, not those names. Your name is qualified with just two words, Bnai Israel, or just one word even, Israel. That is the name that you are qualified with, and that is the name in the Torah, and that is what is called the book of life. And that means if you're Israel, and don't mean that you have to be born Jewish. It means that you have to accept and convert or revert into this covenanted faith and become part of the bride, or part of the if you want to call yourself wife of God, you can, but wife of God is allegorical. It's not some physical wife, but it's an allegorical title. You take that on. Same for a male, same for a female, and you take that title on, and you become part of the children of Israel. That is the book of life. So I explained that Christians are very ignorant of our manuscripts. They try to twist and turn and try to fit New Testament passages into things that they don't belong to. And I never got a response back, by the way. I never got a response from that person, because he doesn't have a response. He's a Messianic, so-called Messianic, who probably, he believes Jesus is God. He believes Jesus is his husband. So what do you think is going to respond back to me with that question? He's never going to respond back to me. They're so-called leaders, they're so-called best people over here. They were trying to bring in these other people to debate with me, and there's a couple they brought in, and they took a little bit of a hammering, a little bit of a thrashing, and they brought another person. I said, no, I'm not going to talk to that person. He's an ignoramus. I spoke to him many years ago. I said, he's an ignoramus. I'm not going to waste my time with him. And one time they brought a passage from the Psalms, Psalm 110, and the passage was about Melchizedek, and I had to explain that Melchizedek doesn't mean a priesthood. It's only applied to a righteous king of Israel. So then this person tried to prove, or at least say or question, well, the passage in Psalm 110 is like, well, Psalm 110 speaks about Melchizedek. So what if it speaks about Melchizedek? It's just a future king of Israel. Presently, at the time it's probably written, speaks about King David. Future, it speaks about King Messiah. So that's about as far as we go with that. Righteous king of Israel. But I said, where is the priesthood? Where is the priesthood in that? The priesthood is going to have to. You can't have a king without a priest, and so therefore you can never make a king without a priest. And so he was like, well, what is this relationship between the priest and the king? I said, they have a very close relationship. A king cannot move without the priest. A priest has to anoint the king. Psalm 110:4, where King James Bible says, the Lord has sworn and will not repent, thou a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. That's actually a bad translation. Thou a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. Totally wrong translation. But anyhow, the point was that it's not talking about a separate priesthood. It's just speaking about a present king and a future king. Two people, present and future. And Christians try to misapply that, and the Christians try to apply that to Jesus, which doesn't work because it is not that. Jesus never had a kingdom on the earth. I asked him, I said, can you show me where Jesus' throne was, by the way? Did he have his throne in Jerusalem? Did I miss it? I never read it in a history book that Jesus' throne was in Jerusalem. Or was it in Nazareth? Again, I didn't read that either. So clearly, if he wasn't physically a king, how can you apply that passage to him? It doesn't work. Yeah, sure, he was from the tribe of Judah, but did he have the throne? Did he rule a kingdom? Was he a king? And then they'll say, oh no, but he was his kingdom was spiritually up there in the sky somewhere. Well, I didn't see it. Did you see it? Do you see it today? Is his kingdom in the sky somewhere? I don't see it. Why would you be wasting your time with a kingdom in the sky somewhere? Because you don't see it. There's no physical manifestation. So without a physical manifestation, you can have a hard time trying to justify that kingdom. However, we do know that the Messiah that will come is not going to be a savior of any sort. Like, he's not a spiritual savior. He is going to set up a physical kingdom. And a physical kingdom can only be established by a physical man, born from a physical man and woman. So, the problem is, the Christian religion, faith, whatever you want to call it, is littered with problems. And how many problems you're going to try to fix? So, all these problems you can't fix. Jesus, on the other hand, was a type of a Messiah. He was an anointed man, not the Messiah, a type of a Messiah. Anointed rabbi, anointed teacher. He had many students, and he taught the Torah. That's as far as Jesus went. Jesus didn't go around claiming kingdom come and is about to set up Jerusalem and is about to do this. He spoke in parables. He spoke in other terms, as people do. Midrash. I asked the question, where is hell? Where is hell today? And the passage that Christians pick up, they pick up passages from the book of Revelation, and they might say Luke 16 talks about Lazarus and Abraham, that Lazarus was in hell and Abraham's bosom, and he was very thirsty and so on and so forth, and so therefore they try to classify that some kind of place, and I explained that that's actually not talking about hell. That's actually a midrash. It's a homily. A homily is just a story, nothing more. It's just a story to illustrate a point. It's actually a story made up by rabbis, by a teacher. So Jesus, as a teacher, made up a story about Lazarus and Abraham and is trying to teach a point. There's nothing more than that. There's no physical place called hell. And so I explained that, unfortunately, for people who are stuck with this idea that they're going to die and go to hell, or they're going to die and go to heaven, is just something to justify or make yourself happy. You see, heaven and hell are here today on this earth. You can choose hell and you can choose heaven, paradise. You can choose your paradise and you can choose your hell. It's your choice. What did Henry Ford say? If you believe you can, then yes, you're right. And if you don't believe you can't, then you're right. Well, if you believe you have a hell, then sure, you have a hell. And if you believe you have a paradise, then sure, you have a paradise. I myself, I don't teach neither. My paradise is here, and my everything else is here. I'd rather stick with the paradise paradigm. I don't need to stick with the hell paradigm. I prefer the paradise, and that's what I seek, and that's what I pursue. I don't pursue hell. I don't think, oh, well, when I'm old, when I die, I will go to some place, maybe I'll go to heaven, maybe I'll go to hell. I don't think like that. I don't want to think like that. I want to be always positive, always have my positive affirmations, and I work on my positive affirmations every day. So should you, because positive manifestations are what works in your life. Negative affirmations, things like hell, negative place, will only create problems in your life. That's all. You'll only make things worse for yourself by believing in that. So don't stop believing in the hypothetical. Stop believing in the nonsensical. If you really want to maybe give yourself, 1 hour, 50 minutes or 40 minutes of some kind of fantasy, then I suggest you go watch one of those movies. Maybe a Harry Potter movie, or maybe you watch those, the other movies that are out there. Absolutely, Rabbi Kefa. Henry Ford said that if you believe you can, you're right. If you don't believe, then you're still right. So I say that, there are several movies out there, fantasy movies. You can go watch fantasy movies. In there they show you the ghouls and the demons and the other things in there, and they show you hell and they show you heaven, all of that kind of thing. Maybe you give yourself 1 hour, 50 minutes of, maybe it's happiness, maybe it's torture, I don't know, whatever category you prefer. You're going to torture yourself for 1 hour, 15 minutes of thinking there's a hell, then you're my guest, you can. And if you don't, then you're my guest, you don't have to. So I suggest that there's plenty of movies to entertain yourself with that notion, because we all know who created the notion of hell. It was created by man to suppress other men, and we're not here to suppress men and women, with fear. We certainly don't talk about fear, and we don't talk about it, and we don't teach it. We don't talk about it, because the Torah is about life. Torah is not about fear and fear factor. Torah is all about life. What life do you have? You have a wonderful life. You have a beautiful life, and my goodness, would you want anything other than that? You set yourself your goals in your life, what you desire, and once you set yourself the goals, then you're ready to run with it. You're ready to run with your goals. Maybe your goal is to have a great business. Maybe your goal is to be a stock market millionaire. Maybe your goal is to have a home of your own. Maybe your goal is to have a beautiful car. Maybe your goal is to have a really nice wife or a husband, or maybe something else. Maybe it's not material. Maybe it's some other goal. Maybe you want to be really spiritual. Maybe you want to be other things. Maybe your goal is to run a charitable foundation. So you can have several goals, and all those goals are in the realms of possibility. They're possible. Every one of them is possible. It's up to you what you want in your life, and you have to decide that. You have to write your affirmations. I was speaking to a friend of mine over here, and I was telling him that you need to act on your goals. Write, listen, act. Write, read, listen, act. Write, read, listen, act. Every day, write, read, listen, act. How do you do that? Well, you write your goals. I'm a millionaire. You write your goals. I'm a stock market millionaire. You write your goals. I have a beautiful car, luxury car. Or you write your goals. I have a $5 million business. You write your goal. You read it. Face the notes. Read it. You believe it, of course. You're not just doing it for the heck of it. You believe it that is all possible for you. And then you listen to it. You could record it in your phone, in your audio player in the phone. You could record it in your laptop and put it in your phone, and you listen to it. Now you put yourself in the realm of possibility. You're not just thinking about it, you're actually doing it. And you're given sounds of creation. You've got sounds of creation that I gave over here. And you can listen to those sounds, the ah sound, the ya sound, the oo sound. You can listen to those sounds. The sound, the ma sound, the meen sound. You can listen to those sounds, and they can really help you. They can really help you to manifest faster, to manifest quicker. Now, I had a testimony today, I believe, from somebody that they are applying the techniques given them, and they are already seeing great results in their life. They are seeing, more money flow in their life. They are seeing better things in their life, and they are already seeing the results of what they are doing. So things are working for them. Baruch Hashem, great, very happy for them. And if you are in that category, great, very happy for you as well. So Torah is all about life. Torah is about prosperity. Torah is about happiness. Torah is about goodness. Torah is about good things in life. Torah is not about punishment, death, go to hell, this, that and the other. All these nonsensical things belong to other religions in the world. They don't belong to Torah. So Torah is only talking about life, health, happiness, and it says that if you don't follow, you're gonna experience difficulties. You're gonna find that you're gonna have many difficulties in life. Call them curses, and if you don't see the good, you're gonna see the bad. So Torah says, Torah doesn't lie. Torah says that, and that's what it is. That's what we see. So again, just as I said, if you apply the principle, somebody was talking to me, they were going to do the 369. I was teaching the 369 principle. The 369 principle is the Tesla principle, in which Tesla said that 369 numbers are divine. So the three things, you take three, and somebody asked me, what is the three? Is that three manifestation? Is that three affirmations? I said, it can be three affirmations, or it can be one affirmation. That's entirely up to you how you word it. You can take three affirmations and put it in there, and then you can read them 6 times a day. And I gave you the times in one of my previous teachings. So you could start with particular times like 3 o'clock, 3 a.m., 9 p.m., 12, midnight, etc. So there's 6 times that you practice those things, and you do it for 9 days. And then after that, you give yourself, if the things haven't manifested by that time, you give yourself a little time, 3 days, and then you start again. Give yourself 3 days break, start again. It's like you go to the gym. You go to the gym for maybe 5 days a week, maybe 4 days, maybe 5 days a week. Let's just say 4 days a week. You go to the gym, you pump the iron 4 days a week, you come out, and you give yourself 3 days off. You say, you know what, I'm going to take Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's me basically. I go there and say, I'm going to take Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. I do that, by the way. So that's why I'm giving the example. I go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to the gym. I take Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. And then I say to myself, I'm going to give myself 3 days off. But I don't come out of the gym after 4 days and say, where's my muscles? Oh, I don't see my biceps, falling all over, like Incredible Hulk. I don't see my triceps like that. I don't see a six-pack yet after 4 days. Of course, it doesn't happen after 4 days. It's going to take a number of weeks, months, before I will see my muscles grow, before I see those biceps coming out and those triceps, and before I see my stomach start to get into shape. So it will be an effort, exercise, daily, weekly, input. And weekly input will slowly bring the results. The same way, when you're doing your affirmations, don't expect things to just happen after 1 week. Boom, it's there. It may take you months. It may take you weeks. And depends on what kind of affirmation you have. Maybe you have a very complex one. Maybe you've written, that you're a billionaire. Well, if you're going to be a billionaire, well, I'm pretty certain that, unless God has really gifted you and is, really tremendously benefiting you, and then maybe you become a billionaire within a year. It hasn't happened to anybody, by the way. But maybe you will. If you're really gifted, maybe you'll win the lottery twice, $500 million each, and you make $1 billion in 1 year, within 1 year. Maybe that will happen. But usually, those kind of goals, like becoming a billionaire, are goals for a decade. We're talking about we're talking about 5 to 10 year goal, a decade goal for somebody to become a billionaire. It's a great goal to have, but it takes time. But maybe you set yourself a goal to become a millionaire, and a millionaire goal, well, it can happen to you next week. You might just be passing through the gas station and you say, you know what, I feel like putting the lottery ticket in. You put the lottery ticket in, you walk away. Next week the result comes, you won the lottery and you already become a millionaire. So yeah, it can happen in a week. That's how fast it can happen. But you don't just get the money, you don't get to keep it as well. Because many people in life, they get the money and they lose it as fast as they get it, as fast as they lose it. Because money doesn't love them. They don't love money. So there's no relationship. Between you and money, there has to be a relationship. It's like being with a wife. You cannot be with a wife when there's no relationship. That marriage will fall apart and you will end up divorcing that woman, or she will divorce you, vice versa. And that relation will be kaput within whatever number of months, maybe years. Only because there's no love there. But if you build a relationship, if you build love, now if you want money, then you have to build love with that money. Because your relationship with money might be broke for who knows how long. Your relationship is broke. You go from one paycheck to another, and money comes one side and leaves the other side. One bill to the next. Money don't stay. That means you have a very poor relationship with money. Now, how do we fix that relationship? There's a number of ways to fix that relationship. Number one, you can hold a dollar bill, a $5 bill, or whatever dollar bill. $5, $50, $100, $1, any of those dollar bills you hold in your hand, and you can recite. There's a number of ways to do it. Number one, you can say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. There's that one way. The Hawaiian prayer. You can do that one way. And you can say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. Meaning that you never really valued money, you never really, given it any particular status. When you hear people say, oh, money is nothing, what does that mean? That means that they have no love affair with money. That means they don't value money. But those are the very people that want to be rich. And they'll say, oh, money is nothing. Money is nothing, but money is everything as well. Money might be nothing to somebody, but money is actually everything, because without money, you can't move an inch. You can't pay your bill, you can't buy gas, you can't buy your food. Well, guess what? Is money nothing? No, money is everything. that's the real truth. Without money, you can't buy nothing. And it doesn't matter how good your heart is. Goodness in the heart don't give you free gas. It don't give you free food. Unless you want to sit outside, I don't know, some place where they offer free food. So therefore, you have to restore that relationship with money. That's the one way to restore it. You can do the I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, Lord. That's one way. Second way you restore your relationship with money is you take a few bills, maybe a $1 bill, $5, $10 bill, and you put it to your nose. You smell the money, and you tell money, I love you. You tell that to money, you speak to it. Or you can just hold the money in your hand and you can say, I love you. Just hold the money in your hand and tell money, I love you. And maybe people in your house might be thinking, you've gone crazy, you've gone weird. What's he doing now? It might be like that. What's he up to now? But you doing that, actually, it's actually a beautiful gesture. It's like you're saying to your wife, I love you. If you don't say to your wife you love her, then she's going, oh, husband, you don't love me, you don't say that to me. Women complain about that. So, you take the money out of your wallet, whatever number of notes you have in there. You can spread them, you can hold them, put them to your nose if you like. You can kiss it, or you can just say, I love you. I love you, And if you just say, I love you, you don't even need to say forgiveness if you don't want. Just say, I love you. I love you, and, I love you, and hold it, look at it, just tell it, I love you. That is enough. That is enough, and you do that every day. Principally, religiously, you do that, just like you go to church every Sunday, and what does the church give you? Nothing. But if you do that with money every day, don't kiss your debt, of course. If you do that with money every day, that love will restore. Money will say, oh my goodness, energy. Money is energy. Money is not a note, it's energy. And money will say, oh, this person really loves me. Yeah, I'm going to be part of his life. And I'm going to be with him. So you have to produce that love. Well, Deborah, that is the book of so-called New Testament. Mumbo jumbo that you read in the New Testament is a mumbo jumbo that people are suffering in poverty in the rest of the world. So Torah doesn't say that the love of money is the root of all evil. And it's not true. The statement is totally false. the love of money is not the root of all evil. I will tell you that today is a false statement. It's a totally ignorant. Whoever made that statement is an ignorant man. Because without the love of money, we wouldn't be in this world today. Money is everything in your life. Without money, I wouldn't be sitting here today because I wouldn't be able to buy a plane ticket. I wouldn't be able to feed my family. I wouldn't be able to put gas in my car. Who's gonna write something good about money? I will, because I'll tell you that money is the goodness of the world. You can create the goodness of the world with money. Look, if there's a starving family, and you went and gave that starving family food, and I did that over here a number of times. I bought food and I bought different ration. I gave it to the poor family, and they were like absolutely thankful to me that I was able to give them that. Well, how would I do that if I didn't have no money? Now go ask Paul, is the love of money the root of all evil or not? Well, Paul definitely deserves a slap or two in his face, that's for sure. If he was around me, I'd definitely slap him twice for putting a false statement in so-called New Testament. So, we don't follow New Testament laws. We follow the true laws of the Torah. Yeah. Chadasha Shalom, Abraham would be the root of all evil because he had a lot of money. King Solomon had a lot of money. Or was he the root of all evil as well because he had a lot of money? Chadasha Shalom, no. That's not true. That's a very false statement. A lot of people ignorant live on that statement. But I have seen otherwise. I have seen poverty over here in the East. Bad poverty. Some people not because they want to be poor, but they are poor. They don't have money to buy food, or maybe they are very struggling. They're struggling to pay for bills. And so you find that. So create the love for yourself. Create the love for money. Pick up the note. Show it some love, Hold it close to you. Hold it close to yourself because you are energy. Money is energy. You want to create a relationship between yourself and the money you have. And the more better your relationship, the more money will stay with you. The worse your relationship, the further back the money will leave you. This is why I said, even if you won $1 million, or 10 million, or 100 million, if you did not have a relationship with the money, that money will go from you as fast as Jack, because you don't have a relationship. And we've seen that. Have you not read how many millionaires, they become bankrupt? I've read so many millionaires, lottery winners who became bankrupt. Why? Why would a lottery millionaire, we're not talking about 1 million here. We're talking about sometimes they have 50 million, 100 million, and they become bankrupt. Why? Because they don't have a relationship with the money. That's why. So before you get that money that you desire, create a relationship so it don't leave you. When you create that relationship with money, then money will flow into your life consistently. And that's like having a lottery ticket in your pocket all the time. You will have money coming in from different directions. So, one of your goals is like that guy said, he made an affirmation. This is not my affirmation. This is an affirmation made by Bob Proctor. It was, I am so happy and grateful now that money comes to me continuously from different directions. And that's a good affirmation. So Bob Proctor made a great affirmation. I am so happy and grateful now that money comes to me continuously through different sources. Now, great affirmation to have. Definitely I encourage you to put it as part of your arsenal. And it's a great affirmation to make. I made my own affirmation. Similar would be, I'll have to look at it. What is it? Money is easy. Money is easy. It comes to me from all directions, continuously and from any source. Beautiful affirmation. Money is easy. It comes to me from all four directions, continuously and from any source. Now, you can make that's a great affirmation to have. You don't care which source your money is coming from. You don't care if it's coming from your salary, your business, your stocks and shares, or some other source. But you want to make an affirmation like that. And that affirmation will help you. And so, create a relationship with money. Even before you create the relationship with your husband and wife, create it with the money, because your husband and wife will only stay with you if you're able to, keep up the relationship. And how do you keep up a relationship? Maybe you go to McDonald's. Maybe you go to Five Guys for a nice burger and fries. Maybe, you go buy your husband a gift. That's how your husband stays with you. Or that's how your wife stays with you. And guess what happens when you don't buy your wife a gift? And guess what happens when you don't take her to Five Guys and you say, honey, let's go down the road to, I don't know, maybe she likes McDonald's. You take her to McDonald's once a week or something. So these kind of small gestures is what keeps a love alive, and what keeps a relationship alive. And when you don't have that, and if you don't have that money to spend, and you can't take that wife, and the love starts to fade and disappear, and then you're like, what the heck's happening, why is my wife not talking to me, what have I done wrong? So usually you find that the bottom line is that you probably didn't do something that you're supposed to do. Maybe you don't have the money to do it. But it's one of those deals. This unfortunately, whichever way we rub it, unfortunately or fortunately, money is the key to restoring relationships, to bringing relationships together, or the breakup of relationships, or the breakup of homes. Money seems to be the central issue, mostly. Yeah, exactly, Daniel. And Daniel is saying that try having no money with your Hansi Bunzi, you'll quickly have no relationship at all. Money answers all things. Remember what King Solomon said. He didn't say money is the root of all evil. He never made that statement. He said money does everything for you. Go and read his books, Ecclesiastes. Go read that book and you'll read what he said about money. And it's a true statement. It's an absolute true statement. Now, do you think that the relationship that Israel and the UAE made has no money value? It has absolute money in dollar value on it. Because the two countries are now going to start exchanging flights, goods, transportation, tourists. And what do you think is going to drive that? Do you think talk is going to drive that, or money is going to drive that? So think about the statements that you read in the Bible and what is true and what is false. Always, be very careful, because the New Testament is littered with all sorts of passages, problems that are put there by so-called Gentiles. They do not come from our people. They do not come from our people, remember that. Luxury class is saying that King Solomon was worth at least $2 trillion, experts say. Probably so, yes, he was very rich, very, very rich man, maybe even more. By the amount of gold he had was tremendous. So, this is why I said that, create your relationship with money. Restore your relationship with money. The person who gave me a testimony today is the very person who told me that I am restoring my relationship with money. Now, I don't have the same problem I used to. Before, my wallet used to be like maybe one note, Now, I have a number of notes in my wallet and money don't seem to leave me so fast. So she's already doing what I'm telling you. So you need to pay attention. This method that I'm teaching you works. You need to build your relationship with money. And when you build your relationship with money, more money will come to you. And the more it comes, the merrier it becomes, because you'll be able to do more things. It doesn't mean that it'll be the end of the world. It'll be the beginning of a new world for you. It'll be the beginning of paradise, right here on this earth. You want paradise here. You don't want it, when I become old and withered and I will die and I'll become 30 years old. All this is fairy tales. Stop believing fairy tales. Start living the life that you deserve and that you're created for. Start living that life. And if you start living that life, you will have money. Money will be your friend. Maybe one of your affirmations should be, money is my friend. And our friendship will last forever. That's a beautiful affirmation. I put that. Money is my friend and our friendship will last forever. I tell you, it's a fantastic affirmation. And you should have that as part of your daily affirmations. So it's very important that everything that the Torah speaks about, it measures in materialistic terms. It doesn't mention it in spiritual terms. Torah doesn't say, spiritually is this high. No, Torah tells you that God tells you always, I'll give you land, I'll give you houses, I'll give you horses, I'll give you this, I'll give you that, fruits. Always God measures things with physical, literal, and material. God never measures things with, yes, I will send you to heaven and it is up there, over there in the sky somewhere beyond the planet Mars. You never read that statement in the Torah. It's laughable to even read that somewhere. But people believe the fairy tales. People tend to believe fairy tales more than they believe truth. If you want to believe fairy tales, then I encourage you to watch, those fantasy movies that you see in cinemas. What is that? Lord of the Rings. Great movie. Lord of the Rings. I think it's a great movie. And it's good entertainment for maybe 1 hour, 40 minutes. Good entertainment. Maybe Harry Potter. Good entertainment. Great movies. But I personally prefer Lord of the Rings myself. So, like I said, they're great movies if you want to watch those movies. If you like fantasy movies, they're good movies. But, fact is, that there is no heaven out there and there is no hell out there. So don't continue to torment yourself. I'm a sinner, I'm going to go to hell. That's how you torment yourself. Because that's your affirmation. If your affirmation is that you're a sinner and you're going to go to hell and you need some man to save you, then that affirmation is going to kill you before your life kills you. How about you start saying to yourself that I'm a great person. I'm a rich person. I am riches. I am wealth. How about you start saying that instead? I am riches, I am health. I'm health and I'm wealth. Start saying that instead. Then see how your life changes. You will no longer focus on the misery, and you'll no longer create misery for yourself and suffering. You'll create greatness for yourself. You are greatness. I am greatness. I am wealth. These are the affirmations you should have. You should definitely not have an affirmation that says, I'm going to go to hell. I'm a sinner. You don't keep saying that. Those are the things that you find churches focus on. Have you noticed how churches focus on those things? Because they want them to make your affirmations of those things so that you can stay in suffering and sickness. And suffering and sickness never leave you in the church. Do you really want suffering and sickness? No, of course not. Heaven forbid you want suffering and sickness. You want health. You want a beautiful life. They don't teach you to have a beautiful life. They don't teach you, don't say you're a sinner. They'll say you are a sinner. They'll keep telling you. They'll keep saying to you you're a sinner. Because they want to make that your affirmation. They want you to keep thinking about your sin. But what is sin? Sin is missing the mark. Sin is not as they tell you. They tell you lies. I tell you sin is simply missing the mark. You've done nothing wrong. If you miss the mark, you've done nothing wrong. Okay? Start hitting the mark now. Start hitting the mark. Now you start telling yourself that you will never miss the mark. You will start telling yourself your greatness. You start telling yourself, my manifestations come fast. I am health. I am wealth. I am riches. Now that's what you start telling yourself. But first and foremost, remember what I said. Build a relationship. Remove the poverty consciousness. A lot of people out there today are living the poverty conscious mind. That is what keeps them poor. God did not make them poor. They are making themselves poor because they keep themselves with poverty conscious mind. And they keep self-sabotaging themselves. They keep self-sabotaging their life. And that's what keeps them poor as well. Why? You know why? Because they don't have a relationship with money. So what they do, they self-sabotage. They try to do one thing and they are trying to aim for it, but they self-sabotage and they destroy that for themselves. I've seen that so many times with people. So many times I've seen it. Observation. Don't self-sabotage. The only way you're going to stop self-sabotage is when you build a relationship with money. Every day pick up the notes in your wallet, put them before, hold them in your hand and tell the notes you love the money. You have a love affair with the money. You love it. You thank it. You tell the money, I thank you for being in my life. I thank you for being in my life. I thank you for being with me. I thank you that you allow me to pay my bills. You allow me to run my life. I'm grateful that you're in my life. When you make that statement, things are going to turn around 180 degrees. You're going to have you're going to have a broke relationship to a mending relationship, a healing relationship. You're going to come out a winner. You're going to come out a champion. You're never going to have a problem with money ever again. But what if the other hand you keep doing this? Oh, I got this bill to pay off. Oh, my credit card bill and my phone bill and my internet bill and my this bill and my that bill. And you keep doing that. That is a sure sign of poverty consciousness and poor relationship with money. A lot of people out there today are carrying poor relationship with money. Start making a better relationship with money. Start building a relationship. Start building a relationship. And when you do, you'll do great. Yael, woman of the tent, is saying stop using those store cards like Kroger, CVS, Ingles. They give you a discount. Sure, because you know what? Because that's poverty consciousness. Be very careful of how you do your shopping and what you do, because you may be inadvertently living in poverty consciousness. Every time you talk about a discount, guess what you're representing? Guess what you're putting up, like a coupon or voucher. Every time you say, oh, I'm going to save this, I'm going to redeem this coupon for $3. I'm going to redeem this for 50 cents. You are declaring your poverty consciousness. Never ever declare poverty consciousness. Build that relationship with money, and you will live a life of happiness and joy. That's your start. That's your base. That's your baseline. That is what Torah is about. Torah is about life. Torah is not about death. Torah is not about how evil you are, how bad and wicked you are, because guess what? Most people in the world are normal people. They're not wicked people. They're not evil people. They don't go out to hunt and kill people. So majority of the people in the world are nice people. But they have never been shown the right road. So they have lost their relationship with money, and they continue to make mistakes, and they continue to suffer. There's no need to suffer. Start doing the meditation that you've been given, the midbrain, or start doing the chanting. I gave you the chanting. Start doing that every day 108 times, the chanting. I had one of my students, Jacob. He sent me a little audio, and it was only an 8-minute audio by one of the Indian gurus, Sadguru. And I have that. If you want that, I can send it your way. And it's got the chanting in there, the correct way, by the way. And you can have that if you want, and you can use that, utilize that, listen to it once a day, and it's great. Definitely worth it. And you can download it. I think I have the address. Let me just see. Maybe I can post the address to you over here from my student. He did write to me and gave me the address and said, I could download that. So, in fact, I may be able to find it on my. Let me have a look. YouTube. It's on the YouTube somewhere. Let me see. Do I see it over here? Yeah, here it is. 432 Hertz Abundance Meditation. Now, let me give you this link. I'll copy the link address, and I'll give that to you. And I would, Tavo that Yaqub, I think is given it to you, and I've got the same one. So use this address, download it. It's free. Listen to it every day religiously. Listen to it. This is really good because you got the primordial sounds in there. And I think that's great. It's got a little nice music to it as well. You'll probably like it. So with that, I'm going to pass off. I'm going to pass back to Rabbi Kefa. Have a great Shabbat. Our Shabbat over here is ended. The Shabbat is at the end. So tomorrow is a start of a new day for us. So have a great week and a great Shabbat Shalom to you. Over to Rabbi Kefa.
All right. Todah Rabbi Kohen again for another great bit of instruction and lecture, guidance and direction. Baruch Hashem. If I can be heard, can I get a one? Want to do a quick mic check. Rabbi Kefa coming in from home base here in San Antonio, Texas, with my little lion, Nakshan, Clopas, Baruch Hashem. I tell you, he just woke up on this Shabbat, Baruch Hashem. Todah for your responses, by the way. I want to give thanks to the Kohen always, because he is the Kohen in the gate. Now, if you note with this Parsha, right, we're dealing with Deuteronomy Chapter 27 and 28. How many of you are very familiar with Deuteronomy chapter 27 and 28? Going all the way back maybe to your Catholic years or even your Christian years. I'll tell you one thing. Deuteronomy 27 and 28. Hakohin, long time ago, did a lecture on identity crisis. How many of you remember that lecture? He called it Identity Crisis. And I tell you, one of the key things that really assisted me in my identity and knowing who I am was Deuteronomy chapter 27 and 28. If anybody is of that same mindset, please put up a 1. Not a 1, put up a D, a capital D. Capital D. If you know what I'm talking about, as you were seeking and searching your identity and who you really were, and one time or another you was in some kind of confusion, and you didn't know, and you knew you had a bigger purpose than, what everybody was telling you, and you knew deep within, at that time you may not have known, but that was your consciousness, your subconscious was actually, trying to wake up and come out of that sleep and slumber. And Deuteronomy chapter 27 and 28 were the biggest chapters within the Torah to help me actually find my way back to the Torah. Because it laid out, especially when you read it there, when it talked about, I think it's in 28, when it talks about, and I will scatter you to the four corners of this earth. And I was like, wait a minute. I thought Israel was already in Israel. Couple that, I tell you, this is one of the first, I tell you, I'm so grateful for the Torah of Moses, and I'll always be grateful to the Torah of Moses, and I always will stand for the Torah. In conversations with Akoy this week, what resonated with me was he told me this. He said, we have to take the Torah stance. Forget all whatever. What is Torah stance? What is Moses' stance? That's our stance. It has always been our stance. But that's what needs to be reiterated to the rest of the world as we are lights to the world. Everybody likes to say that, right? You're a light to the world. Well, what does a light do? So we have to come from the perspective of what does Moses do and not what did Jesus do. But again, that's going to take, it's a process to where you're literally going to have to die. How many of you have died many deaths already? How many of you know, put up a capital D on that one. If you've already died many deaths, I'll put up a D. I have died many deaths, Mishpah. And you must understand that. You must come to a point to where you understand that you're continually dying. You understand what I mean? I hope you all get this. Because, no, I don't hope. My desire is that you all understand is that you must die to many things. Many things that you've been taught in your conditioning. You must die to that Christian behavior. You must die to that Catholic behavior. You must die to your own behavior that you have developed with your ego. You must kill ego. You must die to that. There are many deaths that must take place so that you can live. Like Queen talked about, Torah is about life, and I'm so happy and I'm so grateful, and I have such a gratitude that now I live. I continue to die to things, which is great, because that enhances my capability to even live more. But for those that are not willing to die many deaths, then they'll never experience life to its fullest. And like we're told in our books, to have that life and have that life what? More abundantly. Well, in my notes I wrote two sides. Because if somebody's telling you something, I want you to always remember that there's another side. Always keep in the back of your mind, you judges, you students of human nature, is that there's always two sides. And you'll hear this in conversations. It's like, there's two sides to every story, and then there's the truth, right? There's two sides to every story, and then the truth can come out, because you hear both sides. And anybody worth their weight will always entertain both sides. That's very important, that we entertain both sides and not be one-sided. If you look at the political system here in North America, you look at politics, you look at what's going on in North America today, they're trying to make you choose a side, right? Democrat, Republican. They're trying to make, the tug of war trying to make you choose a side or sway you to one side. I would encourage you to listen to both sides and then develop an opinion for yourself that you can run with. There's always two sides, and you must see that. So if there's life, then if Torah is all about life, then what is that telling us, pray tell? It's telling us that we're going to have to do a lot of dying to get to life. I had to die to Christianity. I had to die to my own, my ego. And ego still tries to crop its head up, and I still have to continue to slay it and die to that. I just have to slay it. I mean, you know what I'm talking about? When ego wants to creep up and tell you you cannot be, you cannot do, that's not rational. You have to die to that thought process or to entertaining those kind of thoughts. You have to die to the fact that you're no longer a slave, because that's what a majority of these so-called Hebrew groups out here want to tell you. You're a slave, or you're a sinner, chicken dinner. I tell you, I got a good laugh off of what Hakohen was talking about, because it's so true. I live that. You know, you go to these Christian churches, and they, it's like a hodgepodge. It's a gumbo of sin. And the more you are a sinner, the more you accept it. I mean, you know what I'm talking about. And then after you're such a sinner so much, then they call you sinner, chicken dinner, and then they actually feed you a chicken dinner with a bunch of sinners, and then they tell you to hold up, and we're going to wait on this rapture that's going to come. And that's Christianity in a nutshell. Is that they feed you sin, and then they actually feed you a plate of sinner, chicken dinner. You know what I mean? So I think it's very, very important that you do understand this, is that you have to die to all of that mumbo jumbo. You have to die to that sin mentality. You have to die to the mentality of poverty. All of these things you have to die to them. And when they creep their heads back up, you must continue to die to them again. You die to all of that so that you can live. And then you can have a life that's more prosperous, a life that's more peaceful, a life of great health, a life of great abundance, a life of great relationships as you die to the old relationships. Right, luxury class? Some of the relationships we just got to let go. We got to die to that so that we can live and we can foster and nurture new, great, abundant and blessed relationships going forward. So we must continue to die so that we can live. Now, me and the wife, we had a great, I love my wife. I do. I love her. Because she's everything that I've always wanted in a wife. But anyway, we actually, how many of you watched the Mulan stream on Disney Channel last night? I got to watch the Mulan movie. I tell you what, very instructional. Great entertainment for me, Hakohen. Not yet. Great entertainment. I got to watch it last night, the Mulan movie. And what was interesting about that movie, I'm not going to tell you all, but I want you to catch this when you do watch it. And for those of you who will watch that movie, it's very, very entertaining. Is that Mulan reminded me so much of what a lot of human beings go through. Is that in the beginning, you have to put up a facade, or like you're living something that's not truthful. You're not being true to yourself. You know what I mean? And so that was Mulan at the beginning, because she went in and was an imposter. She went in being someone not true to herself, taking on and assuming the role of a man when she's a woman, and going in and under the guise of protecting her family, her father in particular. And in this movie, right, she's told by the other side, because remember, there's always two sides, is that the other side tells her, your chi is so strong. And the other side kept asking her, who are you? And she kept saying she was this fictitious person that she made up as a man when she was a woman. And the other side said, you're not true to yourself. So you'll never be successful, or you'll never fulfill what you want until you become true to yourself and quit living a falsehood. Which I was doing in Christianity and Catholicism and all the whole gambit, the mumbo jumbo. And I knew within myself, deep within myself, that, hey, there's more to life than this for me, than just going to Sunday church and eating the chicken dinners and calling myself a sinner. There's more to it. And repenting, I mean, my goodness, I don't know how many times I said the Our Father prayer or the Hail Mary prayer on those beads. Now you wonder where the Christians get, the Catholics get those beads from. The rosary, you know what they call a rosary? You wonder where they get that from? Think about that for a minute. For those of you who have said the rosary before. And now as you go through and on your 108 beads, you do your chant, think about where they get that from. Now you understand the letter of the law, and you're not caught up in the verses of the law. Saying Yah Shabbat Shalom to you says, or getting a whipping for complaining about church. Oh yeah, oh yeah, and all that other mumbo jumbo that comes along with it. So you have to die to all of that mumbo jumbo. You have to die. You have to die many deaths, and you continue to die deaths so that you can what? Continue to foster and nourish life within you, because that's where life really is. On our sojourning as sojourners, because all of you are sojourners, and I include myself in there as well. To find powers, to find source, to find God, whatever title you want to put on it, is that you go through many phases, and you grow and you nurture and you experience many things, and then you grow from that, and you continue to gain experience, and you can continue to gain what I would call on the job training, because you're going through it. And it's not about, searching without, because you're looking and you're looking and I believe I did that. I've done that for many years. You're looking on the outside when what you need to do is look within yourself. We need to look within ourselves and develop that and improve that and find that identity. And that's what Mulan did. When she was told by the other side would say, wait a minute, you're an imposter. You're not true to yourself. You're holding back. You're hiding. You don't need to hide, just be yourself. And that's how I felt. I was like, man, Christianity is just not for me. Catholicism, this is not. I'm just doing this just because Daddy said so. Because that's what Mama likes. But that's not what I wanted for myself. And I wasn't true to myself. It was only when Mulan became true to herself and she exposed herself for who she really was, instead of this imposter, that my goodness, she saved China. Look at herself. She saved the king, because she was true to who she really was. And she was a she and a she, and she was born a she, and she was happy to be a she. And then she went about just, my goodness, total annihilation upon the enemy that wanted to come in and change her way of living, and come in and bring in and usher in a new hierarchy, when she was happy with the hierarchy that she liked. So it's all about what we want, what we desire for ourselves. But again, it begins with us being true to ourselves. Identity crisis, knowing who we really are. It's not a crisis for me anymore, because I know who I am, and you cannot tell me who I am. I am not, because I am. But before, I was just going through the ropes, because I was just jumping from one place to another place. How many of you did the frog leaps like me, played the hopscotch? You're going from one place to another. And you know what? I don't discount that experience in one iota. Oh, wait a minute. I think I just shut down. Let's get it fired back up. I think let's see. Make sure we still, our power off just cut off. Let me log back in. There it goes, it's coming back. Let me log back in, one second here. There we go. Get it back up here. Rooms, let's see. Let's get back into the room. Okay. Alright, back into the room. Okay, Mishpahah, I am back. If I can be heard, can I get a 1? Yeah, Tavo that Akoin. Yeah, you talk about dying many deaths. Power Talk died a death. But guess what? Power Talk came back and is alive. Do you see it? Do you see what I'm talking about? I guess, even Power Talk had to give us some instruction as well. Give us some experience of dying many deaths. And it's so important that we see that from that point, from that standpoint, is that I had to die many deaths to be alive, to live. And I would encourage you all this day, don't be afraid of death. Don't be afraid to die so that you can live. And I don't mean like going and committing suicide or anything like that or harming your body. No, I mean to die to your past belief systems, to die to your past thoughts. Those thoughts are where, oh, I'm never going to be nothing. To die to past statements that have been made about you. Oh, you're never going to be successful. You're never going to succeed. You're never going to do anything. You're just like your mama. You're just like your father. Don't, am I still up? Adelia says I might have got, okay, Tavo that Akoin. Adelia, you may need to reboot, Adelia. So, may need to, reboot and start a new life, Baruch Hashem. And that's what it's all about. It's very, very important that we understand is that we have to continue to die to live. And I found that so interesting. And we have to die many deaths on many different levels. How many of you have done these deaths? You have died to the way you thought at one time. You think totally different now. And like Akoin said in his lecture, some things that you do now, people think we're strange. You be strange. Oh, you talking to money? Oh, you strange. You talking positive to money? But now you're doing it, and you're doing these things that at one time you may have thought was strange or idiotic or just asinine. But now these things are commonplace. Or as some may describe today, oh, you're doing some evil things. You're in some witchcraft. You're demonic. I got that from family members as well. At one time or another. Oh, you're demonic. Because I took a stance for the Torah, for Moses, not for Jesus or Yeshua ben Yosef. I took a stand for Jesus, for Moses and what Moses says. Baruch Hashem. Oh, and in saying that, I want to put this out to the family. Is that if you want to purchase or circulate monies for the Abrahamic-Faith Bible or the Hidden Truth We Break Scrolls, I would encourage you to hold fire. I know how Kohen hold fire until further notice, because there are going to be some additions, some changes that's going to take place. Okay. There's going to be some changes that's going to take place. So hold fire. Don't make any purchases of the Abrahamic-Faith Bible. I know, the Gentile Christmas is right around the corner. And yeah, you do need to make that update, because I had to make that this morning. You're going to need to make that update. You're going to need to make that update on your Power Talk. If you haven't done that, if you're coming in and out, it's because you need to make that update. Very, very important. Luxury Class saying, how often is the NT translation corrupted by the Gentile translators? Well, Luxury Class, all due respect, that's the wrong question to ask, right? What we need to ask is, all due respect, is let's ask the question. Let's not put our energy on the errors, but let's look at the corrections. Is what I'm talking about today. How Kohen is going in and correcting, because again, even in that aspect, the New Testament must die many deaths, and this is why I'm telling you to hold off on any purchases, because you're going to get the new updated version. And I know with Christmas coming around the corner, a lot of you may be purchasing or circulating money for the Abrahamic-Faith Bible to give to your family members, your friends, and your loved ones. I would like for them to have, my desire is that they have the most up-to-date version. You know what I mean? That's, clear-cut and concise, and that can give them, opportunity to die some more deaths. when it comes to how they think it's going to be. I don't know the exact number or what's going to be on it as of yet, but just hold fire on any purchases. So this way you can get the most up-to-date version that's going to be suitable and palpable for those that are still in Christianity, still in Catholicism. That's going to really help them give understanding. Just hold fire, you hold fire, because time is of no essence to us. But what I am telling you is just to hold fire on any purchases, because that way you can give them the most up-to-date version that's going to help them come out of this love fest with, Yeshua ben Yosef, and bring their love fest. Because remember what I told you earlier, Hakoni told me something this past 6 days later that really stuck with me and really just reaffirmed. But it's just that our stance is Torah, period. Torah is our stance. And if your stance is Torah with me, put up a capital T. If your stance is Torah, then that's it. Then that's what it's going to be. And by golly, that's what it's going to be. By golly. By golly, G. Willikers, our stance is going to be the Torah, and that's it. And so, again, it's very important to God for you who are taking the stance with me with the Torah. So if you're taking a stance with the Torah, then you're taking a stance with Moses, period, right? So if you're taking a stance with Moses, then your stance is with Moses. That's it. Regardless of what prophet, what evangelist, what pastor tells you what. Your stance is Torah. Your stance is Moses. Your stance is life, period. So a lot of folks can't do that right now because their stance is not that. Their stance is still with Yeshua ben Yosef. Yeshua ben Yosef is who they stand with. They stand with the Rabbi Yeshua and have raised the Rabbi Yeshua above the Torah. Let's face it. That's what's happening. So sometimes people need to hear things in a different way with a lot more clarity, like I said, that's palpable for them to eat. You see, you can't throw a steak at a baby. I tried that. Well, with Nakshan, he's almost one now, and he's eating steak and potatoes. But if they don't have teeth, then they can't eat it, or they might not digest it properly because their digestive system is not ready yet for that. So all they do is they regurgitate it. They don't. It doesn't stay in and stick to the ribs. You know what I mean? They just regurgitate it. It just comes back out, and it's of no use to them because they're not ready. And so what really needs to be cleared up amongst the people, as you heard in Deuteronomy Chapter 28, it says that, which is so true in our history, is that Israel will be dispersed to the four corners of this earth, to every side of the world. I'm paraphrasing. But we'll be scattered. We'll be scattered everywhere. And in that scattering, what they call the dispersion, or what they call the exile, that we will begin to adopt the wood and the stone. Now, in that Kabbalah, correct me if I'm wrong, Hakohin, in Saudi Arabia, where they walk around that cube, that cube, is there a stone in there? Is there a stone inside that cube, or some kind of stony object that the Muslims pay homage to? What's in that cube? Okay, to talk about that, Hakohin, because I remember you talking about it one time. There's some kind of stone in there, which talked about in Deuteronomy 28. It talks about a stone. And then it also talks about the tree. And Catholicism, I'm telling you, I carried that cross in Christianity. I carried that cross. The cross with Jesus still on it with the nails and the graphic blood and all that blah, blah, blah. I've done that as well. So this happened just like it's told in our Torah that it's going to happen. The book of life. The Torah tells us that this was going to happen. So this is why these changes need to be made, so the New Testament can be palpable to those that can understand and say, oh, okay, my focus doesn't need to be on Yeshua ben Yosef. My focus needs to be on what Yeshua ben Yosef said, was to look back and say, well, what did the laws of Moshe say? What did the book of life say? You can say you are the way, the truth, and the life too. Why? Because you have embraced the Torah. Thus you become the Torah. How many of you say in your affirmations that I have the DNA of El Shaddai? Because you do if you have embraced the Torah. You do have the DNA of El Shaddai. You are life. But you must continue to be willing to die. Die to the negativity. Die to the obstructions. Die to the obstacles. Die to the stumbling blocks that may come in your way that are going to prevent you from, at the end of the day, just like Queen said, from meeting your mark. I tell you, Mulan, she really began to kick butt when she began to identify with herself instead of trying to play the false imposter of a man when she's a woman. My goodness, her gifts just began to just flow out like living waters. Not worried about who was going to accept her. Not worried about, oh, could I die for doing this? Well, she could have. She could have died for, imposing as a man when you're a woman. And correct me if I'm wrong, Hakohim. If people in Pakistan do that today, is that the death penalty for them as well? If a woman, I don't know how it is. I don't know. That's why I'm asking Hakohim. If a woman wants to portray herself as a man and she's caught doing that, what are the ramifications? Hakohim say they don't accept it. They don't accept it. You're probably stone him or her, right? You see. So again, we have to look at this. Is that okay? Even with all that against her, she said, "Okay, I'm gonna still do it because why? What's more important to me than anything is my family, the protection. I want to protect my father." Her motives was good, but again, there's always two sides to it. There's always two sides. And this is another thing about Deuteronomy Chapter 27 and 28 that it tells us is that there's always two sides. Yeah, you can have the blessings, but, everybody likes to speak about the blessings, but nobody likes to mention the curses. Everybody lottie-dottie. They'll quote you up and down about the verses of the law, but when it comes to the letter of the law, not many people, there's crickets, and not many people understand when it comes to the letter of the law. The letter of the law says, I'm not a sinner. The letter of the law says I'm a winner. The letter of the law says I am that I am. So whatever I think that I am, that's what I am. Not, oh, you're a sinner by default, because that's what religions want to tell you. Religions want to tell you that you come in this world defective. You come into this world sinning, and you're a sinner. And you're going to die a sinner, and it's only by the grace of powers or of their God that you can be saved. That's a bunch of mumbo-jumbo. But yet, a lot of people believe this. And this is why Hakohim, changes need to be made periodically as you develop and as changes can come out and decreed by powers. I'm going to get away from using that heaven mumbo-jumbo because heaven confuses a lot of people. You know what I mean? When you say heaven to a lot of people, you almost put yourself in their camp because they can associate with heaven. They can associate with a heaven. And they say, oh, you're like me, brother. We think alike because we both believe in a heaven. No. I don't believe in a heaven. So I need to quit using that terminology. That's just for me. That's just for me. I need to quit doing that. Heaven is now. Right now, Sean? Heaven is now. I need to quit using that terminology. So I'm coming out of that now. I'm coming out of that. Because then many people will think they associate me with them. Oh, you're a Christian brother just like me. Oh, you're a sinner too, huh? Yeah. Come on and have a chicken dinner with me because we're sinners, and we'll have feast together because we're both sinners. I'm not in that camp. You have the DNA of powers, just like I have the DNA of the powers of Israel. You too have the DNA of the powers of Israel. And so when you come into the identity factor of you knowing who you are, oh my goodness, Baruch Hashem, I give thanks and gratitude to the Kohen in the gates for me knowing who I am. Right? Now, we all want to go back to the land. The land, that's part of our rights. That's part of our heritage. That's part of the covenants. It's part of the promise, however you want to put it. Land is part of the promise. But again, I wrote something down that I think is very important when it comes to this Parsha as well. It's just like our Kohen in his lecture was talking about relationships. You want to know why everybody in Israel, before Israel, assumed rights to Israel? You want to know why every culture was kicked out, every clan, every tribe, every civilization was kicked out of Israel before? You want to know why? It's because the relationship between the people and the land was wrong, faulty, bad relationship. It's just what happened. It's a bad relationship. Why do you think, those 7 tribes, those 7 clans that we're told not to blend with, why do you think they were kicked out of the land? You see, the land wasn't barren before the Hebrews on this side of the Jordan was going to go take it over. The land was inhabited, just like the land of Israel is inhabited today. So why time and time again were people kicked out of the land? It's because they broke the relationship. Now you see, this is why it's very important that we understand this, and I had to grow into this. I had to die many deaths in this area. When I first came into the knowledge of the truth and of identity of who I am, one of the first things I wanted to do was to go back to Israel. Who was in that camp? I was like, hey, God of Israel, let's go back to the land. Not concerning myself with everybody else, but my thing was, look, okay, you was waiting for me? I'm ready. Let's go back to the land now. Judah's ready. Let's go back to the land. Oh, I pray next year that we celebrate our festivals in Israel. I want to be back in Israel. I want to be back in Israel. But guess what? I wasn't ready. You see, because to be back in Israel, we have to be in Israel land relationship. So me as an individual, I have to be at a certain level to where the land will accept me. You know what I mean? And not be another reject. And this is what we're learning right now, Mishpahah. Is in land relationship, we have to have a particular type of way of thinking, thought. This is where perfect law comes in. Because perfect law blends in with the perfect land. Ooh, Baruch Hashem. Good title for a book. Perfect law and perfect land. They go hand in hand. Wow, that's rhyming. I didn't mean to do that. But that's what it is. You can't have one without the other. There's a lot of people on YouTube right now that they're talking about the land up and down. Some have even burned their passports and have went back to Israel. But as you can see, their formula didn't work out too well because they're living like fourth-class citizens in Israel today. Because why? They had the perfect land, but they forgot about perfect law. They go hand in hand. And this Parsha, when we look at chapter 27 of the Deuteronomy, actually begin chapter 26. When it talks about Deuteronomy chapter 26, verse 1, I read from the Abrahamic-Faith Bible, the Hidden Truth and Great Scrolls. And it shall be, when you have come into the land which Yahweh your power is about to give you for an inheritance, to possess it, to dwell in it, to possess it, to dwell in it. You see, before we can start, I think this is important. Let's look at verse 2 there, 26. Chapter 26 of Deuteronomy. That you shall take the first fruits of, listen to this, that you shall take of the first fruits of all the fruit of the earth, which you shall bring of your land that Yahweh your power is about to give you. How do I take the first fruits of the land? How do I do that? I mean, think about these first fruits that we're supposed to give to the Kohanim. What's the process in that? I mean, what's the requirements in taking those first fruits? Mishpahah, anybody tell me? Better know how to farm, right, Daniel? So basically, that's going to require some kind of work, right? I got to work at something. I got to work. And with farming, that requires us to nurture. We got to nurture we got to nurture some things here, right? We got to nurture some things, and before we can nurture, we got to settle in. Okay, think about these are some key steps to land relationship. First, we got to settle. We got to settle our land. You're gonna have some land. I'm gonna have some land. Hakohen won't have no land because that's not part of his inheritance. His inheritance is the powers of Israel, Baruch Hashem. But all the rest of us, we're going to have some form of land. And so what do you have to do with your land when you first? You got to settle your land. You got to get settled. This is what I want to talk to you about today, Ms. Fahar, is we got to settle in. Well, you're saying, Rabbi Kefa, we're not in the land yet. What do you mean by settle in? No, you got to settle in now. You got to settle in with self. And this is what Hakohen is doing with us. He's teaching us how to settle in. And once we settle, then we can begin to nurture. You see? We can begin to nurture. Hakohen says, I will take my land in the nations. That's fine for me. And Hakohen has a lot of lands in the nations. Let's make that plural, right, Hakohen? He has a lot of lands in the nations, Baruch Hashem. And just like all of you should have a lot of lands in the nations. And this is where I'm going right now. Everybody wants a relationship with the land, but they don't know about land relations. And the requirements for land relations in our land. I mean, we're going to have to meet certain relationships. It's a relationship between land and people that was broken many times. That's why that blessed land of Israel has had many inhabitants there. Because a lot of folks were just kicked out. You got to settle in. The message that I'm giving to the families this day is to settle down and settle in. But I'm not in the land of Israel. That doesn't matter. This is the type of behavior that you must begin to institute so that you can have good relations with the land and your land when you get it. You understand what I'm saying? It's like, you're screaming for a Porsche. Oh, I just want this Porsche. I love the Porsche car, whatever car you may like. It might not be Porsche, but you say, oh, I just want this Porsche. But right now, you got this Volkswagen, and you don't even take care of the Volkswagen that you have, but you're screaming that you want a Porsche. You don't even take care of the oil changes. You're not making sure that it's kept clean. You're not putting some Armor All on it, putting a good wax job in the summertime on your Volkswagen. But you want this, you see this nice Porsche for yourself. You must have the mentality of taking care of what you have now so that when you do get that Porsche, you'll appreciate it more. And you'll take care. Why? So if in your imaginations and your visualizations you see that nice clean Porsche, how come your Volkswagen can't be nice and clean now? And you take care of that. Oh, you want that mansion, in your visualizations and your affirmations and in your scripting. But what about where you live at now? How about make that your mansion now? Hakohen was kind of talking about this in his lecture. Is you have to appreciate what you have now. You have to show gratitude and thanks for what you have now and build upon that. You see, everybody wants to go back to the land of Israel, but they don't even have appreciation for the land that they have now, you see? My goodness. Luxury Christ says, why should I be promoted to a role when I don't do the simple things correctly in a lesser role? That's a great point, Luxury Class. Yet a lot of people have this kind of thinking. Well, let's look at from the Christian and Catholic point of view. Christians and Catholics all want to get to heaven, and they all talk about heaven, right? But what are they doing now? To me, it would seem like, okay, if you want heaven in the future, how about have heaven now? And then your future will be heaven. You know what I mean? But the Christian mindset, and I know a lot of you have Christian friends, family members, and loved ones, you know what their mindset is? Oh no, I must go through hell now so that I can have heaven later. Put up a 1 if you have any kind of relations with anybody that thinks like that. I do. I'm like, my goodness. No. You'll practice heaven now. And so when you get to heaven, it'll be just like second nature. And this is what I'm telling you about our land. Our land that's promised to us. Our land that's in our covenants, that's guaranteed to us. That'll never be taken away. I don't care how many people occupy Israel, how many different nations, how many different cultures. The land is still our land. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how many people occupy it or inhabit the land. It doesn't faze me one bit. I don't lose sleep over that. Because I know I have real estate in Israel. But again, real estate in Israel, what good is real estate doing to me in Israel today? In 2020. September 5th. Right? So, I want real estate now. So that I can practice. I'm not saying, I'm not a fan of farms. I don't like farms. I like living in, in suburban communities. Not really a city man. I don't like living downtown. But I like living in suburban areas, or I like being close to water. And I like being close to water. So I'm looking for real estate now in those kind of areas. Baruch Hashem. I mean, do these things now. Don't wait till later on. Don't wait till, it's promised to me later. No. You need to have that mindset right now. Settle in. I'm telling you to settle down right now. Get your houses. Get your properties. Get your apartment complexes. Whatever you want to do. How many of you understand? Real estate is in your DNA. Put up a capital R if you understand that. Real estate, and say it with conviction and affirm it. Real estate is my DNA. Anybody in this room besides myself? Real estate is your DNA. That's real. Real estate is your DNA. Baruch Hashem. It's your DNA. Real estate is your DNA. That's who you are. So, if you can't affirm that, how do you expect to own some land in Israel? You see what I'm saying? I don't get that. I don't get how you're gonna say, well, no, Rabbi, I don't want no real estate. Well, then you are denying your right. You put yourself out of the contract then. You don't want what's already promised to you. See where I'm going? Real estate should be, all 20 people in the room should have put up ours. Real estate is your DNA. You should be having properties now. Or start with a property. And then grow from there. But that's a part of your DNA, real estate. That's who you are. So, I'm telling you to settle down now, family. Settle down. Settle in. You must begin to practice and prepare for what's inevitable. You don't have to wait for it to happen. You can do it now. Get your real estate now. Have many properties now. I guarantee you the Ashkenazis do. And they have properties in the best neighborhoods. I know in my city they do. Best neighborhoods. They all stick together. They understand the concept. From the Torah that they're getting. Believe me, they're nowhere near. They can't touch the shoelaces of the perfect law. But yet they understand these principles of real estate. That's the way to go. Baruch Hashem. It just so happened that the president of our United States is a real estate businessman, if you didn't know that. And he's a billionaire. I admonish you, family members, this day to settle in. And then once you settle in, well, what do you mean by settle in? I mean, act like you already have it now. You say you're blessed? Act like it now. How come he talks about it in his lecture? Live it now. Live it right now. Live it, affirm it, do it, be it now. You clean that Volkswagen like it's that Porsche right now. You put that Armor All on that Volkswagen like you put it on them Porsche tires right now. See what I'm saying? You spiffy up that yard in your house right now like it's your mansion. Baruch Hashem. Luxury Class says, I'm 41 in October. My time is now. Absolutely is now. Baruch Hashem. I'm 24 years old, always. Now. I'm 24 now. Old don't mean nothing to me. Old is a word. I'm 24. I'm 24, and I'm 24, and I'm 24, and I'm 24. That's just what it is. Don't be hoodwinked and bamboozled and subjugated to this. Oh, how old are you? I'm 24 years young. Baruch Hashem. There you go. I'm 24 and I'm 24 and I'm 24. Do you see how subtle that is? Well, how old are you? I'm not old. Do you get that, Mishpahah? Do you see these subtleties of how negativity can creep in on you just by asking a simple statement, and how you can change that around? That's a great example, right? Well, how old are you? No, correct yourself. Let me correct you. I'm 24 years young. Baruch Hashem. Don't associate with me nothing old. You see? Don't associate with me nothing old. So I think it's very important for us to understand and begin again. See, we have to die. See, that's another thing we have to die to, right? We have to die to the way we receive things, right? And then change what we receive as negative, change it around as negative and death, and put life in it. You see how we just infuse life in that statement? I'm 24 years young. Wait a minute. People don't say that. People say how old they are. No, I'm not old though. You see? Do you see how we just did that? Yeah, Luxury Class. I'm pretty sure you see that in your environment as well, right? In your neighborhood. Ashkenazi, how they stick together and they apply the principles. You know who else does that? The Chinese do that as well. Woo-wee! I don't think there's nobody better than the Chinese. I see the Indian people do that. The Bangladeshi people do that over here. The Pakistani people do that over here. The Hispanics, to some extent, do that. But I tell you, the Hispanics, they sort of like the people of color. They like to, you guys, I want you to know this. They like to put down, they're jealous of the other Hispanics coming up. I see that a lot here in Little Mexico, here in San Antonio. They just get jealous. And the same way with the blacks and the browns. Not all of them, but a majority of them, they get jealous. They get jealous of the prosperity of their other so-called brothers and sisters, to where they won't patronize their businesses. They'll go to Sam before they go to, patronize these, or they'll go to, one of these big restaurant names before they go to that restaurant that's right there in their block and patronize and give them money and put money and circulate money into their company, into their business, to their small business, because, they just can't stand to see their own come up. And I see that and I'm like, my goodness. Shouldn't be that way. We all know Hakohen has taught you about Black Wall Street, and if you don't have any books on that, I'll encourage you to get some books on the Black Wall Street. It was a marvelous time. But then we know Black Wall Street was burnt down, wasn't it? It's the same thing they're doing today. They're burning down businesses. That's happening today, Ms. Baha. Seattle, Washington. All these other places, these cities in America, they're burning down business. People's livelihoods are being ruined behind some, protesting and all that foolishness. How are you going to destroy businesses in your neighborhood? I don't get that. I don't get that. I really don't understand that, but again, that's a subject for another day. But it's important for us to act like we're already in the land now. And we have to come up with the proper mindset of what is land mindset. Land mindset, number one, is settle. You got to settle. settle down, Mishpachah. I want to encourage you all, where you are right now and where you want to be now, is to settle down. You're a sojourner. You can have several different locations, several different places, but I want you to settle down. It's important. Establish yourself in these nations. I'm going to talk about something that's very important in a minute. A great example on how you can do that. And then the next thing I want you to do is just like our forefathers did when they first entered the land, is to cultivate. Once you settle in with the principles of the perfect law that our Kohen is teaching us, once you got to settle down with it. Find what's comfortable for you, settle down with it. Settle down. See, there's a bigger picture to this that I want to explain to you this day. And I want to instruct on this day, is settle down with it. But Rabbi, is that happening when I settle down with it? Establish a relationship with it. Settle down. Get settled. You see, you can take this land mentality and begin to apply it to self as well. As you open up the real estate to what? Subconscious. Some of us, we realize that we had a subconscious, and now we're conscious now, and we're not walking around unconscious anymore, right? Put up a capital C if that's you. But so now that we have this, now we need to settle down. We need to settle down with subconscious. We need to settle down. Build that relationship. Build a positive relationship, not a negative one. Don't fight subconscious. You continue to have to die. You got to die to all these other things so subconscious can live. And then once you settle down, what's the next step? The next step is we're going to begin to cultivate. That's when, well, what do I want? Well, this is how I'm going to get it, and this is what I want. This is going to make me happy. This is going to give me peace. This is going to give me love. This is going to give me joy. What do you want? I would encourage you all to ask your spouses that very same question. Because you know what I found? I found that spouses, especially when it comes to wives, sometimes us men, we try to go above and beyond the call of duty. But our wives, most of the time, they want something just so simple. But we never ask them what they want, and we assume that they want this, when all they really wanted was something so simple. And that little something so simple that they really wanted gives them so much joy than that big, grandiose thing that you went out and did that they really didn't want. Like our Kohen said, you might be trying to take them out to a 5-star steak dinner. All they wanted to do was go to Five Guys. But you never really asked them what they wanted. All they really wanted to do was go to McDonald's and get some of that ice cream and sit down together and have a nice talk in the park while we eat our ice cream. You understand what I mean? So it's important that we ask, what do they want? Find out what they want. Hold conversations, build great relations. Find out what they want. And then you go out and provide what they want. And then they're totally happy. Because you've given them what they want. I always like to ask my wife. My wife's got a birthday this month. I always ask my wife, well, what do you want, honey? And most of the time it's just something so simple. And I'm thinking these grandiose things that I'm going to do. But what's going to be more memorable to my wife? Giving her what she wants. And her saying, you know what? You've always given me what I wanted. And then there's going to be some on top of that, of course, but you've always given me what I wanted. How many of you want how many of you want what you want? Luxury class said, I wasted all those fancy steak dinners. No joke. Yeah, because again, at the end of the day, we didn't take the time, we didn't take a period of our lives and find out, what our spouses really want, what they want. What they really want. You see? Luxury class says nice food and time, but didn't help the romance truly. Well, what a waste, right? What a waste. When you could have found out, when you're going to find out going forward, luxury class, can you chalk that up as great experience, right? Going forward. In your next relation, you're going to be always asking, well, what do I want? What do you want, honey? What do you want? Let's just sit down and talk about what you want. What do you dream about? What makes you happy? You have to hold these kind of conversations when it comes to relations. Very, very important. Very, very important. So we must settle down. Mishpahah, family, we got to just settle down. Settle down with what? Settle down with what? Everything, all the tools that our Kohen has given us. You know, you go through these tools and you find out what fits for you, and then you just settle down. Settle down with it. Nurture it. Then you begin to nurture it. And the nurturing side comes in. And then that's that discipline where you continue to do, you know, those particular settle down techniques that's beneficial to you, to get you and give you the gain, to give you the desires of your heart, the dreams, the affirmations, the fulfillment of the manifestations of everything that you desire for yourself. Mishpahah, it's not difficult. It's really easy. It's really easy. You got to tell yourself that. It's not difficult. It's easy. But again, it's going to require you dying to some things, right? You got to be willing and face the fact that you got to die to some stuff. You got to die to doubt. You got to die to how. How doesn't matter. You got to die to that. You know, one of the biggest things you got to die to, Mishpahah, and I continually die into this one, is you got to die to time. You got to die to it. You got to die to time. Well, it didn't come in when it's... You got to die... Well, it's going to come in. And you got to keep telling yourself it's going to come in. Well, it didn't come in when I thought it was... Well, quit thinking. You're thinking wrong. You got to die to time. And then you got to die to that ego, because that ego is going to keep raising his head and telling you, oh, you can't be successful. You're not going to have this. You can't have that. You'll never be wealthy. You got to die to that. You got to die to that. You got to die to it. And you got to settle down with what makes you comfortable, what makes you happy, and then you got to just cultivate that like no man's business. This is the recipe for the land of our forefathers that we're going to inherit. So why wait on the recipe? How about start cooking that recipe right now? You know what I mean? Why wait to cook the recipe when you get in the land of Israel? How about start cooking that recipe up right now? Right? You know what I mean? Well, what's the hold up? What's stopping you from firing that recipe up right now? Nothing. Nothing. Or is you stopping you? And this is when you need to die to you, so that self can have life and live. How many of you are really with me? How many of you are really, you say, Rabbi Kefa, I know exactly where you're coming from, and I know exactly what you're talking about. Because this is very important. Now, I'm going to give you an example in closing of what I mean by settling down. Now, before that, I would like to read some verses, because again, I'd be remiss, because, you know, Deuteronomy 27 and 28, that's like benchmark for identity, for me coming back into identity. Hakohen did a lecture several Shabbats ago talking about being silent, right? Didn't he? Did you all hear that lecture when he talked about silence is golden? Anybody remember that from Hakohen's lecture? Look what it says here. Let me tell you. Right out of our books, Deuteronomy Chapter 27, verse 9. And Moshe and the Kohanim, the Levim, spoke to all Israel, saying, be silent. Wow! Wow! Did you all get that? I'm telling you, you know, the apple don't fall too far from the tree, Mishpahah. Or should I say, the olive doesn't fall too far from the tree, Mishpahah. Because I love some olives. What are we told that Deuteronomy chapter 27 verse 9? And Moshe and Moses and Musa and the Kohanim, the Levim, spoke to all Israel, saying, be silent and pay close attention, O Israel. This day you have become the people of Yahweh your power. What was the first step into that? You got to be silent. Silence is golden, isn't it? Why do you think that Kohen is teaching us about that? He's teaching us to settle down in silence. You see? Remember, settle down, then cultivate. Settle down, then cultivate. Settle down, then cultivate. You take that and apply that to anything you desire for yourself now. That's the recipe for now. Land relationship is now. How many of you want lands now? Or you just happy with one land? If you happy with one, I just want you to have some land now. I don't care if it's one or many lands. Put up a capital L if you want some land now. You already have lands now. Lands could be like real estate, houses, anything dealing with, lands, I mean, if you want, you can have that now. That's sustainable. You don't have to wait for it. Land inheritances now. And you can, how many of you understand you can do great things with lands? You can do great things with houses, man. Houses, apartment complexes, you see? Because, listen, there's a lot of people that are unfortunate enough and can't hold on to a mortgage. So what do they have to do? Rent. And they're renting, and they're renting, and they're renting. And believe me, going forward, let me tell you, it's going to get a lot better for renters. So if you have properties and you want to rent out your house, you want to rent out apartment buildings, you want to rent out duplexes, you want to rent out quadruplexes, that's going to be big money. There's big money in there. If that mansion that you're affirming for yourself, that you're scripting, you script that mansion, and then you what? You keep the house that you're already in, and then you do what to that house? You rent it out. And then when that mansion gets too small for you, and then you affirm another mansion, then you rent that other mansion out. Or you sell the mansion and you buy other properties. Remember, settle down. You don't have to wait till we get to Israel to settle down. Settle down now in the nation that you're in, because you're supposed to be a light to this nation. Provide housing for many people that's going to need it. They can't afford a mortgage. Maybe their credit's bad, whatever reason. Some folks just don't want to, Gentiles have a mentality that they just don't want to own a house. They have more freedom than not having a house. So that's okay. So then they can rent from you forever until they pay for the whole house. Pay the mortgage off just by renting from you, no problem. Make yourself accessible to the nations. Light is accessible. I don't know if you noticed that, but light is very accessible. We need to make ourselves accessible. Real estate is just one way of doing that. Lands, owning lands. I wrote this down, and I want to read this to you. Invest, do not divest in the nation that you're in right now. Invest in the nation that you're in. You know what I mean by that? I'm going to ask you a simple question. How many of you in this room, put up a capital A, if you have any kind of Apple device in your house right now? Put up a capital A if you have any kind, or if you ever owned the Apple device in this room right now. Put up an A if you ever owned any kind of Apple device. Doesn't matter. Watch, phone, all this other stuff Apple's coming out with. To Duffy your response. Let me count this for the YouTubers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10 people in this room, and there's 10 people, 11. There's 11 people that said yes, and there's 19 people in the room. Okay? So that's almost, that's almost what? 80%? 80% of people? My goodness. Okay. Here's the next question. Remember, let me go back to my question. Invest, don't divest in the nation that you're in. Is Apple an American company? Anybody tell me? Is Apple an American company? Remember I said invest, don't divest in the nation that you're in. Is Apple an American company? Y'all 1 to 10 says yes. Okay. Now, here's the next question I have for you. How many people in this room own Apple stock today? Put up a capital A if you own some Apple stock. capital A, if you own Apple stock right now as we speak, you own Apple stock right now. Remember what I told you about settling down? Settle down in this nation and then do what? Nurture this nation that you're in. And I'm telling you this for this reason. For you YouTubers that are listening via YouTube, 3 people, including myself, own Apple stock right now. Now, the reason why I'm telling you this is this. It's very important. Is that Apple has just did a stock split. As Hakohi knows, probably, I know Daniel probably knows this as well, and all you other investors. They just made a big a split to where you can get the Apple stock right now you can buy one Apple stock right now for roughly $122. It split, I think, $125. $125 can get you some Apple stock today. Can you believe that? $125 circulation investment. So I would admonish you, Mishpah, this American company, and I'm telling you, it's only going to go up. This is a great opportunity for those of you, and I've been reading articles about the blacks and browns that invest in the stock market. Because, if you notice on the media, they always talk about the market. But I'm noticing that there are a lot of blacks and browns that don't invest in the market, don't know how to invest in the market. And this is going to be another area that is going to be a booming area to look to get into, to assist, to help cultivate once you settle in, to cultivate the nation that we're in. Because you and I are going to play a crucial role, some of us, because we're going to open up businesses that are going to help, expose the blacks and the browns. And I'm not being prejudiced in no instance, but I'm just saying, when it comes to the numbers, the facts on the ground, not a lot of blacks and browns invest in the stock market, and they should. And with these dips that are happening now, this is great opportunity. With these stock splits that are happening now, this is great opportunity for the blacks and the browns to get in and invest. Blacks and the browns, they can go into some stores or on the internet and spend $150 on a pair of tennis shoes, Mr. Hall, believe it or not, if not more money than that, on a pair of shoes, on a nice purse. Am I right? Is that not fact? What? Remember what I talked about? Invest. Do not divest in the nation that you're in. And I'm pretty sure you, Oliver, in France, you can buy some Apple stock as well. Can you, Oliver? If you wanted to. It's very important that we open up the opportunity. Here is an opportunity for you to buy. You don't have to buy 100 shares. You can buy 1, 2 shares. They call it the Robin Hood effect. People are opening up Robin Hood accounts. This brokerage firm called Robin Hood and buying. And then look, Hakoin, have you heard? I think it's one of these brokerage firms. They have what you can buy slices of stock. You can buy just slices. You don't have to buy by the stock amount. You can buy by the dollar amount. You don't have $10. You can buy a slice of $10 of Apple. My goodness. Fractional shares. There you go, Eddie. So the opportunity is there. And, you invest in this American company, Apple, I'm telling you, it's only going to go up. You know how we note this? Is we note this from what we just told you earlier, and as we did our little assessment of how many people own any kind of Apple device, or at one time did. You buy the device, how about buy the company now? I'm encouraging all of you to begin to buy into the company that you're buying these products from. That's how you know what to invest in. What are people buying? My goodness. One of the biggest investments these past couple of weeks, and I'm pretty sure Eddie's will be able to tell you, and Daniel will be able to tell you, is Walmart. If you bought some Walmart stock, you made some good money. You don't have to buy it and hold it. You can buy it, cut your profits, get back out. You know why? Because I go to Walmart, I see everybody and their mama going to Walmart these days. Buy what people need, So these are opportunities for you to do what? To what? Settle down in your nation. I'm giving you an example of how you can settle down in your nation. Invest in it. Don't divest in it. Divest meaning you're coming off the grid. You hear that a lot on YouTube. Oh, we need to come off the grid. We need to cut off our credit cards. We need to burn our passports. That's divesting in the nation that you're in. What kind of mentality are these people that say they're going to go back to the land of Israel and have some land in Israel when they have this kind of behavior and this kind of mindset of divesting in the nation that they've been dispersed and scattered in Deuteronomy Chapter 28? You've been dispersed and scattered in this nation, and you're going to do what? You're going to divest in the nation. You're going to be a negative to the nation and not a positive. But you say, Rabbi, I'm a light to the world. Really? Just one example. I would encourage you all this day to settle down. Die to the mentality that you cannot participate in the stock market, because you can. And you can hold one Apple stock and it can do so much more for you. If you only buy one stock, just hold it. And you'll just watch that stock just grow. It'll just grow and grow. It may have its downsides, but it's just hold it. Cultivate it. They say in the market to buy the dip. And there's a dip that took place this week. I go in the testament to it. Daniel's, I'm pretty sure, is attested to it. Aries is attested to it. There's been a dip this week in the market. Buy the dip. Because I don't know about you, but I do know about Akohi. He has an optimistic approach to everything in life. And especially an optimistic approach to the productivity of North America and where it's going. And America's only going up. There's been so many people, naysayers. If you listen to the media, man, that's all you hear. Oh, the market's going to fall, it's going to go down, and blah, blah, blah. And, we're in a depression. But the market just keeps shooting up and shooting up and going up and up and up. You cannot keep America down. This shepherd nation you can't keep it down. So you're buying into positivity, opportunity for you to see your money just go up and go up and go up. Hakohen is saying there's $5 trillion cash in the market as we speak. The only direction is up. And then they're talking about stimulus package after stimulus and just fueling, putting more fuel in the market even more. By putting what? Money in people's pockets. What are people going to do when people get money? They're going to spend it. What do you think they're going to buy? More Apple products? Hakohen told you, a lot of people don't have the mentality of what money is, so money will touch their hands and money just leaves them. For the majority of people in America, because they don't know how to invest. But yet they do in a way, because they take that money and they go to Walmart, which I'm invested in, and they go to Apple, which I'm invested in. They go to Microsoft, which I'm invested in. They're not going to Tesla. But again, Tesla too did a stock split. And it's at a dip. I'm telling you, a great opportunity to get it. Buy a slice of Tesla, buy a slice of Apple. It can be done, Mishpahah. And I would encourage you all to be participators, to be investors in the nation that you're in. Why are you going to wait to get to Israel and get your land and then start investing? By cultivating the land and doing the necessaries and selling down your land. How about do that now? Why wait? Settle down and cultivate. Now. Begin to do it now. This is such a great opportunity for you to own some Apple stock. You can do it. It's not that difficult, Mishpahah. But there's this pariah about, blacks and browns don't get into the market. Don't get into the stock market. Well, we need to, and we should be. I'm brown and I'm in the market. Akohi's brown and he is in the market. Daniel's brown and he is in the market. Eddie's is brown. Eddie's, are you brown and you in the market? I mean, you're in the market. So There's the naysayers there. How come you say Apple will once again go to 500 and you will turn your money 5 times over, just like that? And he says, not that brown, but I have brown spots. Hey, that's brown enough for me. But do you see, Mr. Hart, this is opportunity for you to let and allow you. How come you talked about your relationship with money? This is how you make money turn over for you and work for you and not against you. When you develop that relationship and you know where the smart money is going. You got to know where the smart money is going. And I'm telling you right now, the smart money is going into Microsoft and it's going into Apple, all these big companies. These big, gigantic companies that are not going anywhere no time soon. Well, you might be saying, well, Rabbi, the stock market is not what I want. Well, if that's not what you want, that's okay. But I would encourage you to invest into it, and you just put your money in and invest in it, and then forget it. Just leave it alone. You make the best investor because you just put it in and you just leave it alone. You see. But again, this is a booming business, and I can see that this could be a booming business for persons that want to help out and help educate and instruct blacks and browns on getting into the market, because we're not into the market. The majority are not. Small amounts are, but the majority are not, and they should be. Hispanics, blacks and browns, Chinese, blacks and browns, Indians, the Pakistanis, blacks and browns, Indians, Native Americans. Getting all this money from the government. What are you doing with it? They putting it back into the economy, all right, by buying all their liqueurs and blowing it on the casinos and whatever, and that's it. How about take that money and invest it, let it grow, put some water on it in an apple and watch it and cultivate it and watch it, like our Cody said, go 5 times over and turn over for you like that. Like our Cody said, build a relationship with money. Don't just say you love it. Begin to build that relationship with it. Okay, money, this is what I'm going to do for you because I love you. Am I going to take it and go buy some brand new sneakers, some brand new Air Jordans, or am I going to take it? Or am I going to take you? Let me show you how much I love you. You see, you tell money that you love it, but then now you got to show money that you love it. You see, I tell my wife that I love her. That's cool. But my wife, more importantly, wants me to show her that I love her. By changing Nakshan dirty diapers. By cooking her a great meal. I got to show her that I love her. By spending quality time with her. By massaging her feet. She likes massages. I massage her feet, no problem. I'm showing her that I love her. By boiling her hot water, because she only drinks hot water. So I keep her a good hot water boiled, ready to go. Now that you say you love money, like our Corey said in his lecture, now we got to show it. And ain't nothing, you say it, now you got to show it. You write it, now you got to show it. You say it, now you got to do it. So today, I just wanted to put out an instruction to the family on how you can do it, and it can be done. And it's very simple. And it doesn't require a lot of circulation of money on your part. Yet the money that you do circulate, it can cultivate into something that you beyond your wildest imaginations. That's what it's about at the end of the day. Because at the end of the day, money does matter. It does matter. Folks will tell you it don't matter. Those are the folks that won't have it. And money will run away from them. But when you understand money does matter to you, and you develop that relationship with it, and you begin to take it and you begin to circulate it in such a way it'll come back to you, Baruch Hashem. Winner, winner, chicken dinner, and you're not a sinner. Hallelujah. Right? So take that going forward. Settle down. Settle down in America if you're in America. And be participants. Invest. Don't divest in the country that you're in. And I would encourage you to do that over there as well, Oliver. Don't divest from France. Invest in France. That's where you've been placed. That's how your light is lit. And continues to be lit because you're giving back to the community. You're shining a light to the community so that they can see it. You're not, ducking and dodging and weaving and just, protesting and doing all these negative things. No, you're infusing your energy into the nation that you're in. See, this is preparing you for land relationship in Israel. Because believe me, we're going to be doing that there as well. Why not start now? And if you don't have that mentality to do it in the land there, guess what? You won't ever see the land. Because you don't meet land relationship requirements. You understand what I'm saying? So we must just settle down now and begin to cultivate now. Bring those first fruits to the Kohen. Baruch Hashem, that's what it's about. That's what it's about, Mishpah. It's our way of life, our way of living. Take it to heed, take it to heart, take it to your head, and put it into action going forward. So on that note, I'll wrap up my lecture for this Shabbat. Remember, settle down. Settle down where you are. Yeah, you're a sojourner, but settle where you are now, and then move to the next place. Move to the next, and then you just keep settling. That's what Abraham did. Jacob did the same thing. We're sojourners. We just settle somewhere, picked up, moved, settle, and settle. Baruch Hashem. Settle down, and then cultivate. Don't settle down and perpetrate. Don't be one of those. Settle down and cultivate. Build the nation that you're in. Do great things and wonderful things for your neighborhood. Here come Lion King, Baruch Hashem. So we give thanks always. On that note, I wrap up this Shabbat. And I love you and I leave you in the mighty powers of the Most High. Powers of Israel. So let's move forward and do what's necessary. And we're going to leave it open for any questions right now and any concerns that you may have, and then we'll wrap it up. Have a great 6 days of labor ahead. Baruch Hashem. Shabbat shalom and shalom shalom.
For that, Rabbi Kefa, send the notes through, send the lecture through, please.
Okay.
And I'll close the room until next week. Have a great Shabbat. Shabbat shalom, shalom, shalom.